Hello, and welcome to What in the World Do These Quilts Have in Common? I'm Marin Hanson, and I am the Curator of International Collections at the International Quilt Museum at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Today, our first piece is this circa 1983 patchwork quilt, or baijiabei, from China. It is an interesting mix of simple piecing and more complex patchwork patterns. It is small, roughly 21 inches square. The next piece is this 19th century French pétasson or lap quilt. The quilting is extremely fine and the quilted areas are also stuffed, giving the piece increased dimensionality. And here are a couple of details in which you can appreciate the individual fabrics of the one and the almost sculptural qualities of the other. But what do these pieces from very different times and places have in common? Well, if you watched last week's episode of What in the World Do These Quilts Have in Common, you might think I'm cheating by having the same theme for today's pair of quilts. These quilts are both what we might call amuletic, meaning having the power of a good luck charm, something that gives protection. And in this week's case, all the objects were made for children. If you saw my 3 things about a world quilt video about China, you can find it on our website or YouTube channel. You'll know that in China, patchwork sometimes is seen as amuletic, as possessing good luck or spiritual or religious qualities. On the left is a patchwork altar cloth for a Buddhist temple, and on the right is a patchwork banner covered in embroidered and appliqued good luck motifs. It also features astrological symbols on the borders and a yin-yang with Taoist trigrams in the middle. Clothing for children is one place where patchwork was historically popular in China. On the left is a 19th century example of a boy's silk patchwork robe constructed with tessellated or repeating hexagons. On the right is a modern day example of an amuletic patchwork clothing for children. Each hexagon on the silk patchwork robe is adorned with an embroidered image, usually a good luck symbol. On the left is shou, or longevity, and on the right is fu, or good fortune. And although our crib-sized patchwork quilt is not as fancy as the silk robe, the idea behind these quilts contribute to their amuletic quality. Traditionally, they were meant to have been constructed from donated fabrics from many different families, all of whom wished the newborn recipient a healthy and fruitful future. In France, these pétassons, which look so different from the Chinese patchwork, had both a practical and symbolic function. Their practical use was as a way to protect an aristocratic lady's clothing from her infant's bodily fluids. See how this finely dressed woman has swaddled her baby in a pétasson in order to keep her silk robe clean. The fact that the pétasson takes the format of a white quilt replete with stuffed work fits within the history of southern French workshops devoted to broderie de Marseille, or white corded quilting. Pétasson also had an amuletic purpose. The quilting motifs usually represented good luck symbols, for instance, rosemary fronds for familial love on the left, and a stylized pomegranate for abundance on the right. So, just like last week, here's what we want to know. What have you made as a commemoration or a good luck charm for a child? Please leave a comment or photo below. And just like last week, I couldn't resist posting a picture of sweet Anja with her 100 Good Wishes quilt that my museum colleagues and I made for her. See you next time for What in the World These Quilts Have in Common.